Here I am, Luke. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong. Born female, transitioned to male, and you've got now issues with your legal status regarding the Gender Recognition Act, and it'd be great if you could explain it to us.
Yes, so I transitioned legally through the gender recognition certificate in 2015, and I had legal questions around my medical care, around how to fill out statistical data, around how to, I was in school at the time, so when I am working as an adult, how will this implicate my employers and my colleagues and myself? I'm now 10 years later asking the same questions, and I've been in contact with our Taoiseachs in the last 5 months. I've been in contact with all the ministers, NGOs, no one can answer. So at the moment I have some questions around a passport, because I'm going to need to renew that in the next 2 years.
And so what would you like your passport to say?
I wanted to say female because my sex is female.
Okay, so what are the roadblocks for you? Because you've transitioned to male, got the legal cert to say male. Your passport says male. Why won't they allow you to change it back to female?
So there's two things here. Might be a bit controversial, but I believe that detransitioning and transitioning are exactly the same thing, because they're both built on stereotypes. So what do you need to do to transition? Well, you need to have, well, actually a lot of this is kind of old-fashioned. So back when I transitioned, there was a route to, you need to medicalize, you need to have surgery, you need to go by a different name. There was all this pathway. But now they're saying that no, you don't need to have surgery, you don't need to, just for you, someone like yourself, saying that you're a woman makes you a woman. So you don't have to do anything. Well, in a way, that's less sexism from the point of view of you need to do all these things. So now the NGOs and the trans activists are actually not saying this anymore. So if we turn this to a detransition pathway and remove the stereotypes, well then I just have to declare I've never believed in gender ideology, but there's nothing that I can just declare that I'm a female or a male, and that's my detransition route. But the government hasn't really caught up with that yet. So if I say, right, I want to revert legally back to my biological sex, the government can actually say, well, you're not living as your sex, and therefore we're not going to grant you the certificate to live as your sex. Even though everything
Gotcha.
I do, I would argue everything I do is living as my sex, because I can't not live as my sex. But there's okay, so in Irish law, since 2015, there is no biology of male or female in Irish law. There is a application form that you can change. So legally, I am male for all purposes. So this means, for example, if I went into a medical clinic, obviously my sex hasn't changed, but the treatment I would legally, if a nurse or a doctor, legally I am to be treated as a male. But this raises a question now how do you treat a female as a male without breaking the law?
That is mad confusing. So this is the way I'm understanding, put it simply. We're both here having the crack. A car comes, runs us over. We both go to a hospital. They go, here's two handsome dudes, and they give us the same medicine, but because you're actually biologically female, you will have a different reaction to the painkillers and medicine that I would have, right? Because I can take a larger dose than you. That is one. If they don't realize they are,
yes.
because you're actually female, you'll have to take. There's slightly different medicine, lower doses, things like that.
There's also the more of a risk of, depending on what way the car happened to hit us. There is different protocols for males and females with medical equipment.
Yeah.
So if someone provided medical equipment that was inequipped for my body because they thought I was the opposite sex, there is a issue there. But they are technically following the law, but they could potentially injure someone.
Yeah. So there's two issues there. What we're talking. One is if someone thinks you're male but you're actually female, they could give you the wrong medical treatment. Let's just call it medical treatment, whether it's equipment or medicine. That's a problem for you.
Yes.
Right. And why would any ordinary person want you to take the wrong medicine? Because we're gonna pay for it, and then when they mess up your body, we have to pay for the recovery. Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that was the reason why I picked up on this issue, because I realized that's actually. That actually is quite serious, messing with people's medical history. And so you can't...
But also the doctor, sorry to interrupt you, but like the doctor, I'm on record now as male. So if I was unconscious,
there's
a risk there of, well, he's male. And if I'm unresponsive, there could be a legal case there, but the complication is someone could potentially be legally sued if I was harmed. Could I sue someone who is following the law?
Yeah.
If I was harmed.
Yeah. Okay. So
So for our HSE workers, they're following the law. They're potentially in a stalemate legal scenario.
Yeah. I mean, it's not their fault. It's their government's fault. It is the Irish government doesn't want you to legally transition from male to female, so you're legally associated with your correct sex, because they have an almost Iranian view, right? That if you're effeminate or gay or different from stereotype, you therefore should be forced into the wrong gender group, I guess.
I don't think they say that specifically,
but it's kind of an Iranian way of looking at it.
Yeah,
because if you're gay in Iran, you're forced to transition.
Yeah,
and you're forced to not detransition, which is really confusing.
No one is forcing me to do anything.
Yeah,
but you do. I'm a realist.
Yeah,
you do need to be realistic in this, with legislation, and the real aspect is that there is nothing that I can do to I don't know what I'm meant to do to detransition or transition or whatever, because according to me, I am my sex. So what does this mean to we have a responsibility to society as well. So I am all for freedom of belief, all for freedom of speech. Most people, when I walk the streets or go into a bar or go through security, most people really believe that I'm a man.
Yeah.
And so I have to be okay, and I am okay with that. That's your freedom of belief, that's your freedom of whatever. But that's just the people don't know what to look for anymore for who to know if someone is transitioned or not, or to not to know, but to see if someone is biologically female or male after transition. It's very hard. We don't know how to look at that yet. People outside the gender bubble, as I like to call it. So people in the gender bubble will know straight away what sex I am, but day-to-day society don't. And it's really interesting for me, because the people advocating for no man should be in a women's toilet or changing room or sport also will tell me to get out of the women's changing room.
So we've jumped there's two extremes. Like one is say, I mean, I think most ordinary people don't know what gender means, and we didn't grow up with gender roles. Like it did, and all of a sudden after COVID, we were told there's something called gender. No one tells us what gender means and what it is, and a bearded man can change my gender to a female, and now I can compete in women's wrestling, right? Because like we didn't realize a while ago that actually men will go at great lengths to sneak into a women's locker room, and we need to quite quickly do something about that situation. But your situation is different, because if you and I go into a men's toilet, I go to your right and you go to the cubicle, no one is going to think that's strange. No one is going to see you're not a threat to the majority of men, right? And you're probably but a woman will get angry if they see you in a women's toilet.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into a man's toilet. So
you want to go to women's toilets?
Yeah, because that's my sex.
Yeah. And then if you go into a women's toilets, you then have to explain to the women that you're actually a female.
Usually not, but I do. I mean, I'm okay with the glances, but there are, when I go to, we met at a kind of a conference thing, and when I go to these groups, so day to day in society, I have no issue.
Yeah.
Because people are just going along with their day, and Ireland's pretty liberal in the sense that no one really cares for the most
even
part.
Conservative people don't give it.
The people who are really, I feel this, we need to protect women's spaces, we need to protect, and we do, and I agree, and I go to these events myself. But when these people gather into...
So just a side note, if there's trans people trying to detransition, Jen Speck to have a support group. That's useful information for people to know.
And that was probably my worst experience in a toilet scenario I've ever faced in my life. So directed me to the men's, and I said, right, I'm not going in there. I didn't feel comfortable just because, I didn't know the men in there. I didn't know who was at this event. There could be conservative people at it. I just didn't feel comfortable. And so I went into the women's, and normally people just look away and there's no problem. But this particular lady, she said, sorry, this is quite politely, sorry, strongly but politely, sorry, this is the ladies. I said, I know, thank you very much. And I pursued to go into the cubicle, and she said to me, this is the women's, and I said, yes, I'm a woman. And she said, I object to you being female. And I said, oh, okay. All I could say to her at that point was, I respect your freedom of belief. And I just went to the loo, and I could hear her say, oh, there's a man in the toilet, and I didn't know how many women were going to be gathered outside the cubicle, but I was a little bit nervous, to be honest. And then a lovely lady afterwards, who was also in there, I walked out, and a lady at the hand basin sink just started telling her what it meant to be detrans, and she could clearly see that I was female. But I think this is going to be a big problem socially. And it's not something, I think a lot of people are blind to the fact that, like I said earlier, there's a lot of us that have been medicalised young, and people aren't thinking, oh, well, there are women who look like men, and there are men who look like women, and sometimes you're not going to be able to tell.
Right. So because you are biologically female, you're supposed to go to the women's toilets, but what it sounds like there in that situation, the woman was mistaking you for a man claiming to be a woman.
Yes.
Which is very different to what you are, which is a woman who transitioned to transitioned to a man, through the GRA, but now you want to be recognised as female again. So I guess that is tricky to try and work out a compromise because you're not a threat to women.
I don't want to be recognised as a female. I mean, people are going to see me as the way they're going to see me. I don't care how you see me. I want the law to state what female means, what male means, what gender means, and what sex means. And I want it to be clear so I know my own rights, to my sex-based rights, to any other man or woman or boy or girl in Ireland, to understand their sex-based rights and just to follow.
Okay, after an hour of deliberation, Luke, you are a female with gender dysphoria. That's what you are.
Yes. That was towards the end. Okay. So, I don't think trans and detrans are very good words.
Yeah.
So, I actually think trans and detrans are the same thing because they refer to
gender
stereotypes, and they presume a pathway of you can transition back and you can transition to something else, and there, in my case of okay, well, I like my hair short, I like to wear men's clothes,
yeah,
so there is nothing for me to detransition back to. So what we call it, or a lot of people who call it, who are like myself, is living in transition. When I used to live in transition, or back when I was living in transition, that's kind of the terminology we use, because it's the most accurate of, when I go into a bank, for example, most people really think I'm male. Now, am I going to start a conversation about how I present or whatever in gender to the bank? No, I want to go into the bank, I want to do my stuff and then leave. So from that, everyone in that bank statistically would say, yeah, that's a male when referring to me. So I'm still living in transition, but I don't believe in gender ideology. I know, I identify as my sex, but people around me think I'm the opposite sex. And how is this going to be played out in law long term is the question that I want to ask our government.
Yeah, because the government seems to be encouraging children in your situation to fully transition when that may not be the best medical advice. Cool. Well, I really hope your perspective is included in the in the discussions that we're having regarding gender ideology and the laws around it. As going to shorten this hour-long conversation down to a few minutes.
You've a bit of editing to do.
I've got a bit of editing to do. That was mad complicated, but it is complicated, and people like Luke need to be included in the conversation.
Thank you.
Well,